Welcome back to Stellar Horizons Campaign Game Playthrough, episode 46. This is the year 2142, and we're starting off with the build phase. Russians are up first in reverse initiative order. They are going to build on their Europa base. They're going to expend some supplies to build a rover. They plan to send it to Pluto. They're also going to spend $4 billion on Earth to buy an LV-1 and 2 fuel to send to the Zastava base at the asteroid belt. With the fuel, they'll be able to build a launch vehicle here and send some of that ore out to Jupiter, I think is where they need it. Next up in the builds, the Asians. They are expending $3 billion on Earth to build a flyby and a probe. And then finally, the Americans building a flyby at Jupiter. For those resources, also expending a supply and a fuel to ready that crewed vehicle. And I think that is everything. So, on to the movement phase. Transfer box movements. Russian orbiter, Russian crewed vehicle. This guy was already in the flyby box. He was mining the asteroid last turn. The Russians arrive at the asteroid belt. They're going to stand by to decide if they want to involve themselves. They can join a fleet with the Asians. If the Americans, and the other one here, this was in the flyby box. Nothing at Jupiter, Saturn here. We've got an orbiter arriving and some flybys. We have an orbiter arriving. There's a pirate there, but the pirates do not target remote explorers. And a flyby box there. And then this guy was at 7, and now he is at 6. So in 6 turns, the American orbiter will arrive at Alpha Centauri. Okay, so first up, Russian movement. The Russian here is going to move and drop that cargo off at the Venus base. He's really carrying fuel right now. They've got he's got 1 damage as well. He is going to head to Mars. That's a distance of 3. But at their speed tech, it's still just a 1-year journey. So he's taking fuel to Vostok to sell. And then this cargo vehicle, this crewed vehicle with cargo capacity, will head back to Mercury. So this turn, I think the Russians will give the South Americans a break. This orbiter needs to move to the Sun observation point. Movement roll 47, no problem. So here we have some Russian launches that we need to take care of. So this is on Earth, LV-1 sending 2 fuel. Let's see how that goes. 19, the rocket does not get recovered, but the 2 fuel does make it to the Zastava base at the asteroid belt. The Russians are going to launch this use the LV-1 to launch a rover to Pluto. 91, the rocket is recovered, and from Jupiter to the Kuiper belt is a distance of 7. That looks like a 3-year journey. Okay, I think we've taken care of all the Russian stuff in there. These guys, they are not going to initially join the Asian fleet. but they are standing by if the Americans come this direction. And is there any other Russian? Yes. This guy, and he's going to remain, and that looks like all of Russia's movement except for this orbiter. So this orbiter can move into the central location here at the Kuiper Belt. Movement roll. 89, no problem. Next up, the Asians. This Asian is going to come to the Phobos and Deimos base. Right now it's Cat 4 fuel, and it will end up loading up 4 ore. And it can take all of that out to the asteroid belt where they need it. This CV6 with 10 fuel is going to head out to Mars to take that to the base to sell for profit. So, we forgot to have the Asians pay 1 ore from the Tara base, so we'll do that now. And then this, so now the Asians have, what do they have? They got 2 CV5s, 2 VC, they've got like everything that they can mass here. It's 6 ships plus 7, 8, 9. Let's make sure that they're not over. Their limit is 5, so they're right at their limit. No, I think they can go, yeah, they're right at their CV limit. So the Asians have kind of maxed out here. And they'll probably have, if we'll see how the war goes. Speaking, well, we'll talk about it here in a minute with the Americans. I think that is all of the Asians movement except for this one comes to the base and unloads. So that's fuel, mostly fuel and some supplies. Okay, Americans. I don't think they have anything in the inner system. Oops. They've got these 2 crewed vehicles, so this is all going to stay here. So last time the Americans tried to attack the Asian base. Of course, the way the combat mechanics work, that gives a fair number of tactics points, in this case 4 tactics points, to the Asians. And the rules don't have, for attacking a base, it says the search roll is automatically successful, but you still roll for the tactics points. But if you have 3 tactics points, you can avoid combat. I think we're going to disregard that. I think there's probably a modification that could be made that says you cannot choose to avoid combat at a base. Now, if there were a fleet there, stacked with them, there's some rules that allow for, the fleet, the base can surrender, but the attacker does not have to accept the surrender of the fleet, and then there's kind of a separate combat. I think in that case, you could award the tactics points that would be awarded to the fleet should be available for the fleet to avoid combat. So perhaps they can slip away from the base, but I think you're looking at either the base has to pretty much surrender, or, and since the surrender rules are pretty generous to the base, bases are never required to be bombarded. And if you choose to not surrender, then you can use those tactics points to either allocate damage or increase or decrease damage, the normal tactics point options. But I think avoiding combat with a base is maybe not what should happen. because the larger the fleet that attacks a base, the more likely it is that the base would be able to avoid combat, and that seems counterintuitive. So anyway, we're going to let those guys stay there and force the base to surrender this turn. Or fight. So we've got several American ships here. This one, we know though, is going to go to the base and unload a bunch of supplies. And now, so we're going to exclude those supplies for a minute because technically that's not available to be picked up by one of these other ones, but we've got enough supplies. I normally don't. So we're going to go build a base at Saturn. In particular here, that's going to take 5 supplies, and they want to take also an ore and a fuel. And they are not planning on going any farther than that. They're not going to build a mining station, research, none of that. So they need 5 supplies. So we'll break the 10 into 2 5s. An ore and a fuel. So those 7 resources are going on to one of these guys, and it's going to fly out and head for Saturn to establish a base. That guy, the Americans are doing pretty well on ore, but they're also doing fine on supplies as well. So I think ore is still probably the most useful thing for them, so they will come over here. Actually, if they come to the base, when the base surrenders, it doesn't have a lot, but they can, I think, get half of it. So I think they'll do that. Or we roll a die or something. We'll check the details, but anyway, that cargo capable crude vehicle will be there to take on any captured resources. And I think that is all of the Americans' movements. So right now they're sitting on 2 CV8s and 2 CV6s. And they're going to build another CV next turn at Jupiter and send it to Pluto, a CV2. That, let's see here, we have this orbiter. Needs to make an engine check, 88. Moves into Neptune, and that looks like all of our movement. Next up, combat. Starting with the Americans, and so they have the attack here at the base. So they're going to roll red die for the Russians. So the Russians, that's disadvantage to the Russians. 4 tactics points difference right now to the Americans, but let's see here, the Americans subtract 2 from their die rolls. That takes it up to a 6-point advantage. And in fact, yeah, the Russians only have the 1 oh wait, this is Asians, not Russians. Sorry. I don't know why. I had a brain fart there with the Russians. So the tech tree advantage, yeah, is as it has been, which there is no advantage between the Americans and the Asians. 6-point advantage right now, and then the Russians, or the Asians, gosh, Russians on the brain, receive a 4-point advantage, or 4 points because of the size of the American fleet, leaving the Americans with 2 tactics points. At this point then, the Asians have the option to fight it out or surrender. And the Asians are going to surrender. So surrendering a base. Let's just Make sure we do that. Roll a die, destroy that roll's worth of resources stockpiled at a defending base. It's the attacker's choice. So D10 of resources destroyed, only 2. Well, the Asians have more than 2, and half of whatever's destroyed can be captured. So I think the Russian, they'll say an ore and a supply, and then they get half of that. So this will be destroyed. They get to take half of it, so they'll keep the ore and lose the supply, and the ore will get loaded on that guy. And then there's nothing to reserve. Also, the Asians, if they had a political marker, they'd have to give it to the Americans, but they don't have one. So that is all that happens. There's no victory point marker or anything. It's pretty negligible. So they may do it again next turn. Or they may move to attack. The other combat that we could have is the Russians attacking here. Would still earn them a victory point, but they're likely just to take damage, and any resources they capture, they don't have a cargo capacity to take it. So they're going to wait. That's the combat phase. Exploration, starting with the Americans. So we come out here, and we've got an American orbiter. That's a 5. We'll target Neptune, +4, so a 9. It's a 17 and a 4. Well, 17, the failure rate is 15, so there's no malfunction. 4, so that's a success. Physics marker is a 1. The Americans. Next up for the Americans, they've got their rover, which is a 7 + 5, 12. A 6%, well, that is a failure or a malfunction. And a 7, so a single physics and then an engineering marker. And the rover will be out. But they did receive a 3 on the physics, so that's a depletion. And a 2 for engineering. So the rover's coming off, but that is fully depleted now. The world card, and we'll come back here in a second and get the political marker for the Americans. The world card is chasms. 2, 4, 2, 3. I think they'll just leave the Maria there. I don't know that anybody's going to do anything there. And then we have a life check of 6%. So life check, 6%. 84, the Americans received a political marker, and that is that exploration. And that is all of the Americans' explorations. Next up are the Asians, and we forgot to launch their flyby, and we also forgot to launch the American flyby. So let's take care of those. Asian flyby. Destination is Neptune on an LV-2. So let's see what that looks like. 83, rocket is recovered. Distance to Neptune is 11. They are at the 0.4 speed, so that's 4.4 years, so a 4-year journey. Let's make it a 3. So it'll go in the 3 box. And then we're going to take care of the Americans flyby from, that was launched from Jupiter on an LV2. Sorry, LV2. So the flyby, it's also going to Neptune 93. Rocket is recovered. Of course, for the Americans, that's a distance of 6, so it's a 1-year journey. It really just depends on how long they want to spend, and I think they would rather take maybe an extra year. So we're going to have a whole bunch of flybys here in the 3 box. Okay, so that is another American exploration. So let's go ahead and take care of that new flyby. It's a 6, and they will target, they'll target Triton, which is a 5. 6 and 5 is 11 minus 3, back down to 8. %. Their Americans are rolling low on their malfunction checks, but that's okay. But a 9 means nothing happens. Okay, back to the Asians. So they've got 2 flybys. Let's do this number 2 one first, which is really a 4. And it will target Triton. So 4 plus 5, 9, minus 3 is a 6. 5%. Man, everybody's rolling low this turn. So that's a malfunction. A 2 is a success. So that flyby is going to go away. The physics for Triton, a 1. The engineering marker for the malfunction is also a 1. And that flyby is removed. I think the Asians are going to go ahead and risk it with the other one. It's a 1 plus 2 is 3. Still go for this, which is 5. So that's an 8 minus 3, back down to 5. No, nothing happened. 77 and 9. Okay, other Asian, nothing out there, and I don't think, there's no telescopes, and only the Russians have an orbiter at the sun. So that's all of the Asians' explorations right now. Next up are the Russians. Orbiter at the sun is plus 3, so let's see here, that's a 4 plus 3, 7. They got a 1 and a 24. That's physics for the Russians. They did receive a 3. So that's a political marker. And this depletes down to 2. And that is it. There's no life check, no world card. This world card is for Mercury. Next up for the Russians will be, they have an orbiter and they have a flyby. They'll do their orbiter first. It's plus 3, so it's a 4 plus 4 is 8. And they got a 7 and a 30. So another physics marker for Neptune. That is a 2. The Russians will do their flyby, which is a 6, plus 5 is 11, minus 3, 8. $88 and 1, another physics marker for Triton. It's a 1. That's all of the Russians there. They have the orbiter here, which is a 5. And it will target here, that's a 4, so a 9. $39 and 3, success, physics. is a 2. And finally, the Russian flyby at the scattered disc will target Sedna, so it's a 5 plus 4, 9. $55 and 7, so success. Physics again. 1. Do make an engine check roll for the flyby, but the Russians are going to be decommissioning at 25, and they're just going to let that go. That is all of the explorations. Remote mining. I think we have a little bit. We've got a Russian there, and that may be it. Looks like that's it. So the Russians mining ore, that's a target number of 5. They got a 6%, so that will be a recall, and then that's a 10, 1 ore. So this guy's flipping. He's got 2 ore total now, and the biology marker for the recall is a 1. Okay, that's all the remote mining. That's the end of that phase. Next up is the trade and base construction phase. I don't think we have any trades right now. Not seeing any. Nope. I was just looking. Somebody could go out there and buy supplies from the Europeans. The Asians have the best, 6. The Russians could do 4. The Americans could do 4. Okay. That was the only thing I was curious about there. So base construction. We normally just go left to right on this. No base construction here. All these supplies are available. I'm going to, what is that? Is that another 10? Yeah. So they've got 15 supplies, 15 ore, 10 fuel. That's a lot of stuff. I think what we were looking at doing was having the Americans build more settlements here. So let's do that. Of course, now I've got to make change for everything. Gets rid of my neat stacks. Okay, building a base there, or a settlement, sorry, to be more precise. Okay, well, here's where I screwed up, and I don't, the Americans just attacked the Asian base. Why didn't the Asians, with a big fleet here, attack the American base? They totally would have. So let's go ahead and resolve that. There's no reason why they wouldn't. So once again, Asians are red, Americans are black. Again, that's a 5-point tactics advantage right now to the Americans, and it's going to be further. I'm just picked up the stack here. I guess we can do this on camera together. So we say that's 5 tactics points to the Americans, 6, 7, 10 plus, that's 3 more. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more on top of the 5. Nope, because it's not going to be 5. 1, 2, I'm looking at drones. So drones changes that 8 to a 6. So it's a 3-point advantage for the Americans, but then we add 5 more and make it 8 points. So, do the Americans want to duke it out and do damage? With 8 points, the Americans could inflict 4 extra damage or prevent 4 damage, but I think with the combat factors involved, it might do a little bit of damage to the Americans, but they do have a large defense network. It's only combat strength of 7 compared to, what's the combat strength here? 14 plus 12 is 26, 34, something like that. So 34 to 7. The Americans would likely lose. I don't know if they could get 9 hits, but I think the Americans will just surrender. So the Americans are going to surrender. And in this case, there is a political marker that will move over here. And then the other thing is rolling for the resources destroyed, and the Asians are not going to be able to capitalize on that. 9 resources destroyed. So now that we've thought about that a little bit further, we're going to negate this whole combat, and we'll just re-roll it again next time, because the Asians have a cargo vessel that would be able to join the fleet next turn, and then they can attack the Freedom Base. So there's no point in just letting all those resources go away. So they war-gamed it out. They see they have the advantage, and they're going to hold for another turn. So we'll put a pin in that. So we were doing trade and base construction. Russians, base construction. Nope. No. Other than they will expend 3 supplies on Venus to move that up to a 4. And I don't know if we need to get it. And the Asians are not building a base or a facility. Yeah, no facilities, but they are going to spend 4 supplies at the asteroid belt and move the 7 up to an 8. Okay. That looks like that's our turn. So when we come back in a minute, we will move on to the next year with the builds. Be right back. Okay, and we're back with the builds. Starting with the Russians, theirs is pretty simple. They're building a launch vehicle 1 at the asteroid belt. Quick just note, I made a small error. Last turn I let the Russians build and launch another robotic explorer. They were at their hard cap of 4 over last turn, or before that. So now they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 robotic explorers. Their limit is 1. You can go up to 4 over, so they are at their hard cap. They lost the flyby last turn, but they built so they were over by 1 for part of the turn. I'm just going to let that stand. But they're not going to build another one. The Asians are spending $3 billion on Earth to build a flyby, and the Americans are spending these resources to build a CV2 at Jupiter. It won't be able to go to, I'm building it a turn early, but once I started laying out the resources, I just said, that's fine. And then they were spending a supply and a fuel to unreserve this. Now the reason why they picked this CV2 and not this better one, in fact, that's not the better one, this is the best, is because of the pirate. So the pirate would attack this ship, and this one doesn't have any defenses. This one's still a pretty good explorer. The American, this one has the mobile lab, which would be really nice, but this will still be fine for exploring. The Americans have +5 CV exploration, so this is effectively an 8. And it's got enough combat factors there that it may try to attack the pirate. Although, because it is a CV2, it'll only take 2 hits from a pirate to knock it out. But the Americans do have, and I had forgotten about this as well, there's another +2 tactics points policy that both the Americans and the Asians have, so that's been offsetting. But they would, the Americans, between their that policy and that, they're going to start off with a 4 tactics point advantage over the Russian, or over pirates, plus they get a 5 on their combat roll. So we'll take a look at that. They're not going to go after the pirate until after they successfully explore Pluto. So that looks like all of our builds. What did I do with that CV? I don't think it's going to sit there at Jupiter and await the go order. Transfer box movement. So we've got a Russian here and an Asian. Nothing. Got the American base builder, this orbiter, that flyby. These flybys are also in that box. Rover, orbiter. Okay. That looks like that's all of that movement. So start with the Russians. This guy is headed to Mercury. He'll just continue to wait. This one is coming to the base. Now how much? He's carrying that much. They can sell. That is Vostok base. Vostok base has 10 settlements. 10 settlements means 8. So I'm going to leave the 10 there. There'll be 2 change. Vostok base also. If we'd been thinking about it, Vostok base doesn't have any ore. I'm going to let the Russians do a quick adjustment and spend $3 billion on Earth and $1 billion, so a total of 4. So I have $1 billion back to buy that and an ore on Earth, and they're going to launch that to Mars. Vostok does have a small spaceport, so it can service that CV4, so they can go ahead and get the damage repaired, and they don't have to spend a turn or a couple of turns going back by Earth. It's probably unnecessary. It may be a little bit overkill, but I think they'll go for that. We've got that movement, so let's go ahead and do that launch from Earth. 55, rocket is recovered, and this ore is going to be at the Vostok base, so next turn at the beginning they'll be able to repair that damage. Other Russian stuff, they're staying separate. This Russian is coming back to the base. Let's go ahead and unload that. That's Teslina base. That looks like all of the Russians' movements. Okay, next up are the Asians. Well, let's see here. This Asian is coming there, and he's going to drop the 10 fuel. And they can sell all 10 fuel. This Asian guy is headed to the asteroid belt to take those resources. So we said the crewed vehicle 4 was going to join the fleet so that when they make the American base surrender, they can haul off some of those resources. And that looks, well, we've got an engine check here for this Asian orbiter at Neptune. Wow, 7%, but that's for an engine check. Still, no problem. Okay. Next up, is there any other Asian movement? I don't see it. Nope, don't see it. Okay, finally the Americans. Of course, they don't have anything until we get to here. The CV2 is going to stay. The CV3 will go mine ore, and that one will stay there in case there's a few more resources that they can take from the Asian base. This guy is moving over here. He'll be building a base. And that looks like all of the Americans' movements. Combat phase. Starting with the Americans, they attack the base. Again, I'm not sure. I don't think that there's, I mean, we'll roll it, but okay, that's a, let's see here. Black is the Americans, but they get to subtract 2 because of their drones. Of course, I think I forgot in both cases last turn. The Asians also get to subtract 1, so they're going to both be a 3. So it's even, and then 4 tactics points. So 4 tactics points for the Asians. That's not enough, so they surrender. And they surrender. We roll a die for the resources. That's 3 resources remaining. And so they're going to say, let the Asians keep 1 fuel, and then that'll be 1.5 resources of the 3 that they get to keep, so they're going to keep 2 supplies. Load that onto the CV4. At this point, the base is pretty much, and they also get the political marker back. But I suspect they're going to be, and in fact, they didn't have it because we actually called off that attack. So the Asians did not have a political marker to give them, but we've given it back to the Americans. The ordering of combat here means that it's to the Asians' advantage right now. So that is the Americans' combat. Next up, the Asians' combat. Well, they'll attack the Freedom Base. And again, I don't, seems kind of risky. That's an advantage for the Americans by 2. Of course, the Asians get to subtract 2, the Americans get to subtract 1. So it's still a 1-point American advantage, and then the Asians give them 5 tactics points, so they have 6. So with 6 tactics points, really I think all you're looking at is asking to have your base, heavily damaged to no real effect. So the Americans will surrender. They give the political marker to the Asians. Roll a die, see how many resources. 10. That's nice. That is the freedom base. There's a lot of resources there. So I think the Asians are going to take all that ore, but they get to keep half of it. And that is it. And it looks like we forgot to launch the Asian flyby during the movement phase. And we also forgot to have the Russians launch that. So missing things all left and right here. Let's take care of the Asians. Launch on an LB2 flyby from Earth, headed out to Neptune. That's an 84. Rocket is recovered. It's a 4-year journey, but the LV2 can make it a 3, and I guess they'll go for 3. The Russians are using their LV2, or LV1, sorry, to launch 2 resources, so 2 ore. And in fact, I guess they could have done that and saved the money, but we're not going to worry about it. The Russians would like to have a rocket on Earth. So they're going to send 2 ore to Teslina. And that rocket is a 19. And they are having a hard time maintaining rockets at the asteroid belt. But the ore makes it. Okay, I think that's all the movement. So we just had the Asian combat now, Russian combat phase. They decline again this turn. They will wait for next turn. That's the combats. Exploration, starting with the Americans. And they've got their flyby. They will start off with their orbiter. So it's a 5 plus 4 is a 9. $85 and 3, that's a physics. 2. Next up, the flyby is a 6. It'll target Triton, which is a 5. 6 and 5 is 11 minus 2, 9. It's a success, physics. And the marker is a 5. So that's a depletion, that's a political marker for the Americans. And 3 goes to a 2. We do a world card for Triton, which is chasms. It would apply rocky or icy, but they like the volcanoes. Although with it getting lower, since they'll stick with it, the volcanoes. I was just thinking it wouldn't hurt for the Americans, because they probably have the best explorers, to go ahead and get rid of the +2 all and turn it into something that hurts everybody else even more. The life check, 7%. 49. No life. So that's those two Americans. There's nothing there. And that orbiter is still going. Next up, Asians. Nothing here. So they've got an orbiter and two flybys. Start off with the orbiter. The orbiter is a 5 plus 4 is a 9. $84 and 4, that's a physics marker. And it's a 1. Next up, this flyby is a 3. 3 plus 4. 7 minus 2, 5. $10 and 27, nothing. And finally, the better flyby is a 4 and 4, 8 minus 3, 5. 77 and 4, so that is a success. Physics, a 2. That's all of the Asians explorations, and finally the Russians. Starting off with their orbiter here, which is a 4, 2, 6. 77 and 2. Physics marker, 2. Next up for the Russians. We do have, we'll go with their orbiter, which is a 4, plus 4 is 8. I got the 8, and a 13% though is a malfunction. So physics, a 1, engineering, a 2. And that orbiter comes off. The flyby is a 6. It'll target Triton. 6, 4 is 10, minus 2, 8. I got the 8, 64. Physics, only 2. And got a Russian orbiter here. It's a 5 plus 4 is 9. $25 and 4, so another physics. I'm looking for that depletion. I got a 2. I'd love to get the 10% life check. The rover doesn't do anything. So that's all of the Russians' explorations. That's everybody. Okay, remote mining. Got an American doing it. And I think that is it. Don't see anything else. Okay, so the Americans doing remote mining. It's a 5 for ore. And that's an 8 minus 1, 7. So just a single ore. And that's it for that. Trade and base construction. We do have some trades. Guess we're going to go in no particular order. We're going to let the Asians. So they're going to sell 10 billion, not 10 billion, 10 fuel for 20 billion. And they have made their money back. The Asians are selling. They're going to sell 8 at Vostok. So that is 16 billion. And that two remainder we're going to load back up on the ship. Any other trades? I think the answer is no. Okay. What's next? Well, the rest of the base construction. Let's not forget this one. So we'll start off here. Americans are building a base with a small supply station. And that's going to be Yosemite Base. Takes all those resources. There's Yosemite Base. It's a good base location, certainly for ore. It's one of the best places in the solar system. It has an 8 for ore, I don't think. Yeah, even Venus is just a 7. No, I guess this is a 9. The asteroid belt is a 9. So it's the second best place for ore in the solar system, but nobody's really doing anything with it. At this point now, the CV2 next turn will be able to move towards the Kuiper Belt. Other base construction. So the Americans, they're at 7. Yeah, they'd like to go ahead and get to 8, so they're going to spend those resources and go to 8 settlements. Yeah, I'm just wondering, yeah, so this, I was just thinking, sorry. The war certainly is not, it's kind of a stalemate. The Americans aren't sure that they want to attack, and the Asians aren't sure that they want to attack. And so they're both sitting here, not really progressing. The Americans, the Asians have put a lot of resources, though, into their fleet. The Americans are in probably a little better position to shift gears. They've got this base. They could always upgrade to a large spaceport or something and send their warships out for more exploration. Of course, they're not going to do it this decade, and by the time we get to the end of the decade, there's not going to be much exploration left. Certainly not at range 5, because with their base here at Saturn, that gets them to 12, Kuiper Belt. So Sedna and Eris and Dysnoma are still out of range for crewed vehicle exploration. But the Americans, they could get that unlimited range. Of course, if they do get unlimited range, then they don't need this base, and they're also just going to want to send a CV out to Alpha Centauri. So I think that's the Americans' goal here, is maybe, so then the question is, do they, just wait it out and then push for peace and try to reshift their Victory Point engine, to the exploration and the technology stuff that they've already been doing well with. I think that might be the thing to do. They could also risk, I guess if the Asians The Asians may decide to attack something. They could split their they could send a ship back to Mars. Mars is sitting on some resources, so they could go steal those resources effectively from the Americans and force some more surrenders and try to get more political points, but I'm not sure what's the best way here. Anyway, there's no other American base construction. They've done those two. The Russians, they're not constructing anything, but they are expending 3 supplies to take that to a 5. And the Asians don't have any base construction, but they will spend 4 supplies. And move that up to a 9. Is there anything else? So let's just take a quick survey of the solar systems, or system. Here's the action at Mercury. The Russians are going to be able to start going after the South Americans again. Venus getting terraformed. Nothing going on over here. Not a lot of action here. Got the big Asian buildup. It's hard for you to see the stack unless we angle it there, but it's like 6 warships, I guess. Plus a couple of Russians. And then we've got the American fleet over there at Europa. Americans are ready to send the first humans out to the edge of the solar system. And we've got kind of a smattering of flybys and orbiters out here. And 1 Russian rover. So that is where we're at. That was the year 2143. In 2 turns, we're going to begin rolling, starting with a 1% chance to see if the game ends. So that'll be interesting if we get a surprise ending earlier than we expect. But I'm counting on it to go into the 2150s for sure. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.